Good and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Taupō District Council chambers for our October meeting. Welcome to members of the public, members of the press, staff and councillors and Deputy Mayor. Good afternoon. First up, if we could have our opening blessing for the day, please. Thank you. Tua ki te mari o te whenua, tua ki te mana o te tangata, tua ki te pono te arata, ki piki, ki hiki, ki tika, hui taiki. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Just reporting that we are live streaming or recording for uplift subsequent to the meeting. And so if everyone could speak nice and loudly into the speakers, would be much appreciated. Okay. Apologies. We have one apology from Councillor Christine Rankin. Do we have any other apologies? It looks like a full house, which is great. Could I have a mover for that apology? Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you. Right, just a confirmation of minutes, item 4.1 of the previous meeting that was held on the 24th of September of a previous meeting. Could I have any points of clarification on those minutes? If not, I would like a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Lachlan. Seconded by Councillor Greenslade. No amendments to those minutes? Cool. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Carried. A confirmation of minutes held on the 30th September 2024. Any amendments to those minutes? Points of clarification? No. Could I have a mover then, please? Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Have a seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Right. Item number 5.1, Lake Terrace Mangamanu. Drive roundabout, linkage to Pukenamu Road. Now we have some speakers very kindly coming along this afternoon which would like to talk to this subject. So I propose to give speaking rights to the 6 people lined up here, and we've allocated 5 minutes per person. Karen here very kindly has got a timer, so that the bell will go off at 5 minutes. So thank you for everyone coming along and our staff as well. First up we have Mr. Donald Landell. Afternoon, Donald. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see another Landell back in town. Eh? Yeah. Whereabouts you based now, Don?
Austria.
Austria. Cool. Yeah. Oh, welcome. Welcome back.
Hear me through this, or
yes, yeah. Nice and loud into this, Donald, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Cool. Okay, so, good to have you here. Welcome.
The Mayor and Councillors, I'm the owner of the 1A Pukenamu Road property, which I purchased from the Taupō Council in July of 2012. Although not part of the lakeside development, the construction of the proposed 4-leg roundabout, the proposed closure of the road would have severe negative impact on how this 1,650 square metre site can be developed. Having met with the development engineer, Roger Stokes, and Rose Prisk on site in May of this year, I was assured I would be entitled to a road for the full length of the roadside boundary. In the extract from this agenda, it states council officers have met on site with the owner of the undeveloped property at 1A Pukenamu Road. It was agreed that a formed and sealed access would be retained along the frontage of the site, and the land along the frontage would remain as a legal road in the ownership of the council. Taking into account that the road curb sumps would need to remain in place to accept the water runoff from the road bordering my property, this would mean at least the first 110 metres of the road from the proposed new roundabout would have to remain. should the remaining south part of the reserve, the remaining Pukinamu Road bordering my property, in my opinion, would also require a cul-de-sac to facilitate a turnaround in a dead-end street. Leaving Pukinamu Road in its present form would be the most cost-effective solution. In the resource consent applied for and granted by the council in March 2012 for the development of my property, which still is valid, it states, this site is vacant and grassed. It was originally part of the State Highway 1 road reserve and was severed from the road reserve in 2006 as a result of the creation of the Lakeside Terraces subdivision. This was to establish Pukinamu Road off Whariwaka Road to prevent additional road connections to the current State Highway 1. Furthermore, there are several references within the resource consent stating the site adjoins Pukinamu Road. Therefore, future buildings would be in proximity to the road. Earthworks will be required to provide vehicle access from Pukinamu Road. There is no statement within the 1A Pukinamu Road resource consent or the sales and purchase agreement between the Taupō Council and myself that Pukinamu Road connection to Whariwaka Road is to be regarded as somewhat temporary. The resource consent of the Lakeside Terraces subdivision was lodged with the council in 2003 and approved 2004, at which time it was thought that the suitable means of access to the subdivision would be from State Highway 1. At that time, it was the planning stage of this new subdivision. With the creation of my 1A property by the council in 2012, the situation has changed. Where am I? Change due to the fact that I require access to the full length of my property. Also now in 2024, the feedback shows that the majority of residents, 90%, do not want access via Lake Terrace and strongly prefer to keep the Pukinamu Road connection to Whariwaka. In the meeting agenda report, it states on page 7 that $150,000 plus GST has been budgeted for the closure of the southern end of Pukinamu Road, the removal of the paved surfaces, curb, and the return the grass area, open space. But on page 17, it states there's the risk that the proposed Pukinamu Road closure may come at a higher cost than external engineers have estimated. All and any costs can be mitigated by not removing Pukinamu Road that connects to Whariwaka Road. I do ask you to consider your decision. I do ask you to consider what your decision would be on the closure of a road that provides access to your own property. I have not yet sought legal advice on this matter, as I would hope common sense will prevail. I'm presently working and living in Austria. I've made time to come from Europe to be at this meeting. I'm hoping there's a possibility for council members to meet on site for local inspection within the next 2 days, which time I have to return to work in Austria. I can leave my details there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Donald. Appreciate that. Any quick questions or clarification? No, all good. Thanks, Donald. Okay. Good to have you here. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for that. You've referred to some documents there.
Yeah.
You've got copies available for us that we can review them.
My resource consent, yeah, sure.
I mean, we can get them through council, but if you've got them available, I'm more than happy to read that.
It's probably easier. I just give the reference number to the resource consent, and then
that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Next up, we have Mike Keys. G'day, Mike. Welcome. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. Thank you for the chance to have 5 minutes of your time. I asked for this speaking rights prior to the agenda, prior to my reading the agenda. And having since read the agenda, I'm wondering whether I should be wasting your time because it's well written and all the facts are there. But since I had my 5 minutes of glory, I thought I would take it. I put together 15 points, and rather than read them out to you, I just wonder whether it's possible, Mr. Chairman, to actually ask the councillors whether there is any disagreement with any of those points. I don't want to rewrite the agenda item. It's all there, but I would love any feedback from my points.
Yeah, well, we can obviously see them there. I think I'll probably ask the councillor if they got any queries on any particular one, or was there any 2 or 3 that you want to actually really highlight, Mike? Or
no, not really. I was just seeking feedback as to whether there was any disagreement with those points.
don't want to probably get into debate now, but just a question from Councillor Shepherd, if that's all right. Thank you.
Point number 5 there, you refer to the LIM report. So is it your understanding that you have seen a copy of the resource consent that's on your LIM?
I'm taking that from the agenda, Councillor
Okay.
Shepherd, in that there was a sample taken of the limbs.
Yeah.
A good sample, I think a good sample, and each one of them contained the resource consent, which says Pukinamu will connect to a roundabout on Lake Terrace.
Mm-hmm. And just a follow-up question on that. When you purchased your property, did your solicitor draw your attention to a consent notice on your title?
I don't live in Pukinamu.
Councillor Greenslade?
Thanks, Mike. That was my address. That was my question. What's your address? Whereabouts do you live? What's your interest?
Well, I live in Whariwaka Road, but I believe the roading system is a network. Everyone pays for each bit of the network. Someone in Rafiti Street pays for Pukinamu Road. Someone in Norman Smith Street does likewise, as does Pukinamu Road. People pay for Whariwaka Road. So we're all part of that, and we all have a say on it. We're all allowed to go everywhere. That's the New Zealand way.
Absolutely correct. Thank you very much.
Councillor Campbell?
I think Mike's being too modest. I believe he used to have the equivalent of Tony Hale's job back in the day. But
I'm never modest, councillor.
Sorry,
I'm never modest.
well, my attention is drawn to question 5. Your point 5 delivers on Pukinamu limbs and expectations. That is a burning question, but I suppose my question of a question is in terms of adverse effects or effects if that didn't happen. That's I believe that's part of the equation to be considered too, because they still have access to Lake. That they would still have access to Lake Terrace, but just not through a roundabout. But anyway, I'll leave that. It's not a question.
Of course, they've got that access now, but there are people within Pukinamu Road who expect to be able to connect via a roundabout at Moanamu. And this delivers on that.
Thank you, Mike.
Deputy Mayor?
Probably you've asked for feedback on your points, whether you agree or not. What I would say is thank you for your points, and we will take them into consideration along with everyone else's points, both for and against. And it would be inappropriate to go yay or nay before having heard everybody and had the conversation. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Sorry, just a clarification. How many points are there, Mike?
15.
15. All right. Could you just
15 is the best one.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Jamie. Very good. Thank you very much, Michael. Good to see you. I appreciate that, and appreciate taking the time today. Next up, we have Mr. John Finch.
Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora, John. How are you?
Ruapehu takumara ko Tongariro takuawa ko tati tūwhare toa taka iwi e whanae hau no tera iwi. Mi whānau me au ki rārana ko tamaki kaura keinga. Nō reira tēnā koutou tēnā koutou tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, John.
I'm a resident of 27 Pukenāmu Road. I only have one thing because I believe my much more wise colleagues will have a presentation of all sorts of facts and information. My question to the council is one of need. I'm trying to determine over this last year where the need for this roundabout incursion has come about. And obviously there's the need of the trigger point of the 2000, which I believe my colleagues will query quite clearly. The second thing is to wonder whether the need for this is driven by an alternative motive rather than the need of those residents within the proximity of the roundabout. I've yet to determine whether that need serves any purpose for the residents, and so have a question as to, apart from the determination of the resource consent, which says that the roundabout must be in place due to a set of circumstances, I can't foresee a reason why there is a need. So I suppose my question to the council is, having explanation of the need for the residents is extremely important in terms of serving the needs of the residents and all the locale. I think in terms of the process, I'm going to be very short and very sweet. I would just like to commend the work of Rose Prisk. I've never met Rose. Is Rose here? I've communicated with on a regular basis, Rose. I just want to say thank you very much indeed for the punctuality of your response, the nature of your response, and I believe you're stuck as a piece of ham between in the sandwich here. So thank you very much indeed. But I do think it's worth commending Rose on the work she's done. So my question is one of need. I have a swathe of questions and information, but I believe that my colleagues will handle this. But I think very clearly what I want to get across is that the idea of linking what will become a cul-de-sac of Pukenāmu Road, I am completely and absolutely opposed to in any shape or form, and cannot determine what the need is. And I'd love council to come back, apart from the quality of resource consent, to come back with how they define the need for this expense and for this intrusion on our lives. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Dennis Atkinson. Good afternoon, Dennis. Welcome.
Mayor, councillors. Dennis Atkinson. I live at 1 Pukenāmu Road. I've lived there for 15 years. One of the first properties within the lakeside development. I'm here to urge you to reconsider the decision to proceed with the four-legged roundabout and close Pukenāmu Road. The overwhelming majority of our lakeside residents oppose the connection. This was evident at the public meeting in March of this year and reinforced by the subsequent surveys which you conducted. The surveys also showed some significant support for a three-legged option. Alternative uses of the financial contribution made by the lakeside developer were discussed at that initial public meeting. There was no threats of legal action if it was used for something else. There was some very positive contribution and ideas about where the funding should go. We as a group have significant concerns regarding some flaws in the technical report, which is in your agenda. The report grossly overestimates the maintenance cost of Pukenāmu Road for the 250 segment that would be remaining. the figure in your document is of the order of some $81,000 a year, which is just a nonsense to suggest a 250-metre section of roadway would incur that sort of cost. The report grossly underestimates the cost of uplifting Pukenama Road and converting it into a green space, and ignoring it ignores the expense which would be necessary to provide roading to Mr. Lendel's property at 1A Pukenama. The report addresses safety, and really, I think if you read the report, the safety issues are pretty well balanced, whether it's a 3-legged or a 4-legged roundabout. The concern regarding the 4-legged roundabout, which my predecessor didn't mention in his 15 comments, was cyclists on a 4-legged roundabout would certainly be exposed on Lake Terrace. The other issue is the plan puts pedestrian crossings across Lake Terrace, encouraging people to cross at that roundabout. When you as a council have gone to a lot of expense to construct 2 underpasses within 100 metres of this roundabout. Really common sense for people to be going under the road than crossing the road with children, dogs, prams, whatever. So, from a safety point of view, I don't think the report really matches what really is common sense. The technical report, as Mr. Lendl has pointed out, it really doesn't really address the significant impact that uplifting of the road and removal of the road would have to his consented property. Also, the report does not address the topographical difference between the height and the incline of Pukenama Road compared to Lake Terrace. So you're not building a sort of roundabout on a green site. You've got a sort of road that's a bit lower, and the proposed arm to Pukenama will come at an acute angle and an incline, which I think has issues for the road traffic and pedestrians. In the technical report, there's a suggestion to remove the bund and the vegetation Pukenama Road. This would create a loss of amenity for myself and certainly for Mr. Lendl, as this provides visual and noise protection from that busy road. And it's an absolute nonsense to suggest that the removal of that bund and the vegetation would improve the visual view from Lake Terrace to the lake, because there are large trees in Seacombe Park, and Mr. Lendl is going to build a property on this sort of section which will obliterate that view, whether or not the bund and the vegetations. So I've had some legal concerns regards the issue. My limb, which I have reviewed, includes the Hearing Commissioner's decision of 2004. It also includes the Environment Court decision, appeal and review decision of 2005. Now that consent gives access, or specifically provides access to Lake Terrace via T-junction between Pukenama Road and Lake Terrace. That was to occur when Pukenama Road became a local road. When Lake Terrace converted to a local. That was in 2015. So variation of that consent occurred in 2006 with the Naroto development. That consent included a proposal for a 5-legged roundabout. 5-legged. So now we have a 4-legged proposal. These consent variations, the Naroto one and the current 4-legged one, are not on the list. So the council has previously varied the original Environment Court consent, demonstrating flexibility in planning decisions. Council failed to take action or to action the access to Lake Terrace ownership in July of 2015. So the road has been a permanent access for our community for 10 years. So I was there, well, I'm going to be brief, but
We're out of time. I'm happy to hear the end of this presentation if you're amenable to that. We're over time for the speaker, but I'm happy to hear him out.
so I haven't got time. So in terms of the legal issue, also the short notice provided for reviewing the council's first report, including the legal opinion, which you have in your agenda, for us was 5 working days. And really, this is unfair and contrary to natural justice. We sought an adjournment for you to make this decision. It was not granted. In summary, all I'm saying is do not confirm this agenda item today. I suggest we seek a solution that retains Pukenama Road in its current state without a connection to Lake Terrace. We should pursue a variation of the consent to reflect the changed circumstances over the past 20 years and the community's desires. We should engage further in consultation to find a satisfactory appropriation of the lakeside developers' funds without legal risk to the council. So in conclusion, with goodwill, proper consideration of community feedback, a solution can be found that respects both the legal requirements and the overwhelming desire of the residents to maintain Pukenama Road in its current form. So thank you for your concern.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any further clarification on this?
Councillor Taylor.
Appreciate that. You raised a couple of issues there around the variations of existing consents. That is not information I have before me. And I'd be keen to see what you've got and can make available to us to assist the decision making. And you mentioned legal advice. Take it you've received same or no?
Bush law, but common sense law really is this answer to your question, because your legal opinion barrister informed your council that I was made aware of the variations to the consent. So I've looked at mine and I cannot see any variation other than what was provided by the Environment Board, which was to provide a T intersection between Pukenama and Terrace.
And you mentioned a 5-legged roundabout.
Well, as I say, that is not on my consent. That's consent which was provided to Naroto. And I'm not sure what happened to that.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions of Dennis? Councillor Campbell.
I'll just clarify. I believe I've seen several years ago a picture of that 5-legged. I believe it was including all it was simply no closure of Pukenama Road, but both bits sort of joining into the roundabout. That's about right. But just to clarify.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you very much for your time today. Next up, we have Mike Hillary. Good afternoon, Mike.
Mayor and council members present. My name is Michael Fullery, along with my wife Debbie, who's present, and our children. We live on Pukenama Road at number 10 and have done since 2018. I have to say my wife and I are extremely upset with the prospect of having a 4-legged roundabout and the way that this has been handled. Right from the beginning at the street meeting in March 2024 until this present date, to us, it has been abundantly clear that the decision to have a 4-legged roundabout has already been made and that you, the council, are merely going through the process in order to be seen to be transparent. Following this meeting, we, the residents, made detailed and significant submissions listing over 50 reasons why there shouldn't be a 4-legged roundabout, with only 5 reasons for. There has also been a workshop where we weren't even allowed to speak unless invited. So how fair and transparent can this be? In your own meeting agenda report that I have here, that you all have a copy of, it states that the roundabout will go ahead. There is nothing to say that it has to be a four-legged roundabout. The reading, and I quote in the report, is, "It is anticipated that there will be a connection to Pukenami Road," not that there has to be. There has been made mention of possible litigation in regards to the $133,000 that is currently in trust with the council. This stems from not putting it around in, but having to give it back to the developer plus interest. In the report, there is mention under amenity improvements of the poor state of the 250-metre stretch of Pukenami Road. It being unattractive, poor growth, weeds, showing early signs of wear and tear. Have any council members present even bothered to drive up to Pukenami Road and the other roads off that to see how us, the residents, have looked after the trees and grass in our area? The area of land that you refer to is council land. You, the council, do nothing to maintain Pukenami Road in its current state, hence the state of it. We are lucky if the grass gets mowed 5 times a year. There are no trees being replaced that are broken, and the buns and burns with flax and toi is well overgrown with weeds. You've also stated that you would like to flatten the buns because of supposed comments by Bodywalker residents of not having expansive views of the lake that they once had. You are literally talking of a 150-metre stretch of road. You're wanting to put this bad soil that you refer to as poor onto the ripped up area of Pukenami Road to promote grass growth when it's full of weeds and practically rubbish. What do you think is going to happen? You also make mention of antisocial behaviour. And the author's own report is anecdotal evidence where there was a car burned out and cars doing burnouts. Well, when was this? The author cannot give a date or a time. How do we know that this even happened? I'm a serving member of the New Zealand Police and have been for over 25 years, the last 7 of which have been in Turangi and now in Taupō. I patrol Taupō on a daily basis and see the antisocial behaviour. The antisocial behaviour does not happen on Pukenami Road as you claim, but it happens in Seacombe Park Reserve, the car park and boat ramps. The antisocial behaviour is allowed to happen because you, the council, are doing nothing to alleviate these issues, and yet you want to open up more land. So what do you think is going to happen? There have been multiple issues that have been raised on a consistent basis by members of residents, I should say, by your own act with photographs provided, but nothing has been done. To us, the council's reasonings for not having a 3-legged roundabout lacks absolute merit. The only people that it will affect having a 3-legged roundabout is us, the residents. And we made it abundantly clear to everyone, particularly on March, that we do not care. I understand that a roundabout has to be built, fine, but have a 3-legged roundabout. It is an absolute win-win for everybody. You, the council, get the roundabout that you wish. The roundabout gets paid for by the developer at a reduced cost, and we keep Pukenami Road as it currently stands. So it's an absolute win-win. Just because there is a report from a roading developer or engineer supporting a 4-legged roundabout does not mean that is the right thing to do and will work practically. Take, for example, the waterfront bar in Tongariro Street area. Visually, I admit the waterfront area looks great. Tongariro Street with a double angle parking is an absolute nightmare and poorly designed. There is mention in your report of there being 4 reported vehicle accidents in this area of Mangakino Road and Lake Terrace between the period of 2014 and 2023. This is an extremely low figure and almost not worth reporting. There are more accidents per year in supermarket car parks than this. What is a significant factor in road accidents are poorly maintained roads, and there are plenty of roads in and around Taupō like this. Pukenami Road is not one of them, not even close. I'm just about finished.
Yep, no problem, carry on.
Right. What is apparent is that a 4-legged roundabout will create more congestion in our area. I base this on my experience as 25 years as a police officer. With that comes the greater risks of accidents, non-injury, injury and death. This is from my experience. You were all voted in to represent us, the residents. This is not happening. You appear to be doing what you want with no consideration for us, the ratepayers, whose rates keep on going up, and there appear to be a lot of poor decisions being made. The lack of transparency is clearly evident, and there is definitely no trust and confidence from my end. It is so fiscally irresponsible in this current climate for the council to spend the proposed money in any of the options for Pukenami Road. Please, I implore you as the council, listen to us, the residents. We know what is best for our area. A three-leg roundabout is the best all-round option.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Any points of? Great, thank you, Mike. Next up, we have Jerry, Mr. Jerry Williams. Afternoon, Jerry.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the time. Unfortunately, Richard Reddy's ill and he's asked me to take over his slot for him. So I've taken over his time slot. Last night I sent out a paper outlining our position on this matter. We were originally told we could have 20 minutes and we're now booked down to 5. So I decided it's much easier to send out a paper so you could all consider it. And the whole principle is that we do not want this roundabout. I hope you had a chance to read it, and I especially hope you've had a look at the suggestions of Scott Adams and Karras, the developers of Naroto. He agrees with our contention that the vehicular movements on Mangakino do not exceed 2,000 cars per day. And he suggests that due to further development, Naroto further north, more residents are likely to exit from other avenues. We have received some strong report from Naroto residents also who do not want a roundabout. I think we put out a whole stack of flyers. We said something like 70% support against the roundabout and the other 30 obviously were for. How many of the councillors have actually been and watched the movements on Mangakino intersection? It flows very smoothly, it flows well, and there is no pressure. The Whare intersection apparently has some 6,000 vehicle movements a day, but there is no congestion, no issues, no plan for a roundabout there, even though it's probably a more appropriate place. There is a very strong depth of feeling amongst the lakeside ratepayers against the changing of our status quo. We do not want to be directly connected to Lake Terrace. The corridor report claims the cost of maintaining Pukenami will be something like $81,000 per annum. This is obviously ludicrous, and if extrapolated across all the roads in the Taupō District Council area, you'd require the full national budget to pay for it. In our collective memory, there's not been any road maintenance on that stretch of road in the last 10 plus years, and none is likely to be needed in the foreseeable future. It's in good condition. We're talking about approximately 200, somebody said 250, I haven't measured it out, of which approximately half has to be maintained to allow the commitments for 1A Pukenami. Thus, we're talking about a negligible piece of road that has no issues. We strongly ask that our roading be left alone, with possibly some appropriate signage and maybe some landscaping in the area. Your legal opinion, which we received a couple of days ago, was obviously the result of a very specific brief. And I suggested if we were to instruct the same lawyer, we would receive a very different opinion. The councillors must be fully aware of the media and political discussion recently about local body activities. The councillors are elected by us to look after and promote our interests, not those of unelected staff who are employed to work for us. The choice is clear. In our democracy, voters, through their elected representatives, should have the final say in shaping our laws and not unaccountable staff. The councillors have the power to change or to obtain immediate consents. The ratepayers of Lakeside strongly request that we be left alone with no changes to our access or any decision postponed until a longer discussion can be held. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you very much. Any points? Clarification on Jerry?
Okay.
Councillor Greenslade, just one question.
Thank you very much, Jerry. What's your address?
I live in Kuawai Drive, 26 Kuawai Drive.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Jerry. Right. I think that's the end of the public speakers. Yep, correct. Okay. Okay, I'll invite our infrastructure manager now to present the item. Thanks.
Tony and
Mr. Roger Stokes and Mr. Tony Hale. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Your Worship and elected members, and I'd just like to appreciate the feedback we just heard from the residents on this particular topic issue. As you know, we've got a paper in front of you, we've circulated, and we had a workshop back on the 10th of October, where we had some obviously feedback and some requirements to go away and seek some further legal opinions, particularly around the Lakeside Terrace Environment Court decision and the judge's ruling there with the funds that were set aside at that time for a connection. Now the paper has been updated to reflect those legal views, but what we thought we might do is Roger's just going to touch on a few salient points. We're not going to be taking too much more time because we've heard quite a bit of conversation already, but it's just really just a bit of a very quick overview refresher on some of the key points in the paper, and then obviously there's a recommendation on the table, and I'll leave it back to Your Worship to follow through with that.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. I'm Roger Stokes, Infrastructure Manager, as you're aware. I'm the author of this report, which you have in front of you as agenda item 5.3 on page 5. I'd just like to note that this report's a collective effort amongst various officers, not just my name on the top of it. So particularly had a fair bit of input from Nigel McCaddy, who's sitting at the front there as our legal officer. Attached also, you'll see in your agenda item is 3 reports, which is the Community Engagement Summary Report prepared by Rose Prisk, who's also in attendance at the back. So if there's any questions on that report, I'm sure she can jump in. And we've got the Safety and Economic Review of the roundabout proposals from Ashley Green from Corridor Solutions. Now, I'm not sure if Ashley's here. I don't think I've seen him today, but I'm advised he is. So any questions from the technical matters, you can try them. Also, the legal report, the legal advice on the question of the Lakeside Terrace roading access by James Winchester, who's a specialist RMA lawyer. Nigel can help with any questions relating to that. So these reports we read also, but the summary findings from all 3 of those reports are included in your agenda report. So salient points pretty much are there and go into the resolution. So I'll attempt to cover things off in the first instance. So I'll take my report as read, but I wanted to highlight the process with the residents has been really valuable to hear the diverse views of the community and understand the issues they have. So whatever the decisions is or what pathway we go, this will help in the development and designs, optional amenity features to enhance the high standard that everybody really enjoys in the area and obviously can see so valuable to the residents that live in the area. And how we can get the most balanced outcome for the community, the residents, the future owners that will live there. And be consistent, of course, with what's gone before and any protocols and policies we've got to work our way through. The engineering reviews that Ashley's done have given a tangible basis for the benefits analysis, and the legal review has highlighted potential risks in not proceeding along the pathway that the council was set on 19 years ago with the granting of the Lakeside Terraces consent. So I've got a draft resolution proposed in your agenda, which is recommending firstly confirming connecting Pukenama Road to the new roundabout as per the analysis in the report. And second and thirdly, some measures to address matters raised in the submissions. But just as a point of interest, recommendation 2, I'll just right near the front of your item, which is recommendation 2 that the council works with the Lakeside Terraces community to facilitate amenity enhancements to the entrance of the development. I just thought I'd elaborate a little bit on that one just to be clear. So they would propose that council permit the residents to do an entrance or gateway feature on road reserved land, which could include the Lakeside Terraces name, some more. But to be clear, there's no council funding approved for construction of an amenity wall. This would likely be a residents' initiative if they wish to do it, unless the council saw fit to allocate some funding towards this purpose, but there's no budget at the moment for this, and we haven't done it to it for amenity features and other subdivisions, but I'm just explaining that the background to that wording. I'll try to assist with questions that members may have, but maybe I'll just jump and just pick out one of Mr. Landell's submission just to give a little bit of clarification, because it's come up a few times. As Tony's correct, I think it's Tony, I think.
Don, sorry.
Okay, there will be, I met with him and Rose and I met him on site there, and he's got plans to build in the future. The houses aren't quite designed yet, but what we suggested is that we would retain the access along the front, effectively a one-lane access probably, and was suggested that could look like we saw cut down 3 metres wide to retain the existing seal, and one curb line there's along the full section of the frontage. You could leave a gravel shoulder, so if there ever was more than one vehicle, they could just come across on that. That would certainly reduce the stormwater effects. And I did propose the idea that we could even put a gate on that in the short term until Mr. Landell was actually moved ahead with his plans to build, just to stop people going down there and accessing it. Just something that council can do for mowing and maintenance purposes. So it's not an increased cost item, it's just actually retaining what he needs along the function to get a single user property access. And if later he doesn't need the full frontage, we can pull that area sealed back. So I just wanted to explain the thinking there. But that's me. Any other questions?
Thank you. Tony?
Just to reiterate, Your Worship, that information is in the paper there. Obviously, it's quite a complex issue, and obviously a degree of sensitivity. You've heard obviously different views around the table today. You've been in a workshop. The recommendation is in front of you, Your Worship.
Okay. Yes. So we'll have some questions, no doubt. Councillor Taylor, Deputy Mayor.
Yes. Can we bring up page 23 of the agenda as the map? Road. Because the submission we heard from Mr. Land was one of the things that resonated with me, and I just want a bit of clarity on where that sits in terms of the road frontage, looking at a map.
Councillor. So Lachlan, while we're
just looking for that. I just get the issue around the 81,000 maintenance was raised a couple of times. Just wondering if you could clarify that. We could not. I don't want to dive into all the detail, but I just thought it might be useful to get an answer for that.
Cool. Roger.
The 81,000 is an economic analysis of the cost of maintaining the parallel roadway with the residents using that. It's made up of, it's not 81,000 of maintenance, it's as the Corridor Solution reports, breaks it up into that one. Maintenance component, which is the road seal replacement, is around just under 10,000 per year to council for the direct cost for the seal replacement, which is replacing like for like. And Ashley gave quite a long life cycle of that because of the relatively low usage. The majority of the costs are vehicle operating costs, which is every day there's about 240 approximately excess kilometres. I think it's 240 excess kilometres travelled through the maybe 150. Sorry.
That's economic.
Yeah, and so I haven't got all the numbers just directly in front of me, but the economic cost of the extra running is seen as $17,000, which goes towards that 81,000. There's vehicle emissions cost, which is predominantly nitrous oxide. There's also CO2 and other particulates, which is using the NZTA cost values. Excuse me.
Order, please. Order.
Using NZTA figures, that's 22,000 per annum, and the additional costs. The value of time lost by the extra travel, because based on 80% of the trips north, is.
Excuse me. Could I have no commentary, please? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Yeah.
So the report's 32,000 for that, but that's based on only a single occupant, whereas many of the vehicles have more than that. So that combined adds up to 81,000 of economic cost. The 40-year evaluation that NZTA used for economic assessment is about 3.25 million. I note that doesn't include the maintenance, sweeping the channels, the stormwater systems, and the other costs.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Back to the graphics.
Come back to my question.
Deputy Mayor.
For can we just enlarge that just a little bit? Can you point out, please, where Mr. Landell's property boundaries are and the extent of the road frontage in relation to what is the yellow highlighted mark on the road?
To come forward and do the other picture.
Yeah. I just think with the cursor, I think we can probably remark it.
I must be close to see it. So Mr. Landell owns number 1A property from there to there.
Yeah.
So there's the roundabout location. So there's on the roundabout picture, you'll see there's a proposed driveway coming off to merge in with the existing lane. What I suggested was on site that we retain a single driveway along the frontage, and if later he doesn't need the frontage, we cut that back. So
Say 40,000 a year, look at. Get through the chair.
Thanks, mate. Order, please. Sorry. Quiet, please. Let the officers and the councillors now ask the questions, please. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. That was one of the things which caught my attention when we had the submissions earlier. The other one was around the resource consent, specifically detailed the intersection. Don't have that information in the paper, and I'm interested to know the context around that and needing more information on that. So I don't want to truncate the conversation here, but we've also had a couple of people, including Jerry at the end, suggesting that we hold the decision, which I'm happy to suggest we leave this agenda item on the table. However, there is a caveat with that for my thinking. I would need to have some compelling information from those who have submitted today around some of the information that we have in front of us. So I'm addressing the crowd here, Your Worship, to enable a consistent decision to be made across the entire district. So we have LIM reports with this from day one. We have 2 resource consents which detail, and I concede based on the information, one says a T intersection, but a junction with Lake Terrace. And we have some legal advice which talks about obligations on council to act in a certain way. And even if we stepped away from a 4-legged roundabout, the obligation to connect Pukenamu Drive to Lake Terrace remains on the basis of the resource consent. So I'd be interested, if we're going to put this on the table, to have some feedback along those lines to enable a decision to be made in a logical and rational way. And I appreciate there's lots of emotion here, but if we're going to make a decision, we need to make it which is going to be consistent across the district. So I'm open to more information, but it would be along those lines to enable the decision making.
Councillor Westerman.
I'd second that. I don't feel I have enough information to make a decision today, and I'd like to leave the resolution on the table for another day.
Yeah. Councillor Campbell.
Question for Roger. In this council, who has the delegated authority to make the decision about the alignment, the layout of this roundabout? Is it staff or elected members?
What's the relevance of that?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Was there a question on that? Or?
There's a question.
Well, I'm asking the relevance of it.
Who's got decisions making?
Okay.
Oh no, it is. It's a yes. It's a staff or elected members question.
At the moment,
my question is related. Well, it's actually a simple answer. So yes.
So that, Roger.
We put the question of whether it's the connection in front of the council right here As it comes to design detail, once the resolution is where whatever the roundabout will be, if the resource consent says it's to the, effectively be myself as the infrastructure manager would approve the design standards after getting a safety audit and being satisfied that it meets the resource consent condition. So it would not come back to council, it would be a staff decision. Like,
No, but I'm saying, you're asking because I think that was a little bit grey area amongst some of the people.
Sorry, with respect to my colleague, it's a nonsense question. The agenda item is quite specific about the decision we are being asked to make as elected members. It's in the agenda paper. It's very clear to me. It's in plain English.
Any other questions?
Another question.
Excuse me, through the chair, Councillor Campbell, have you got a point, question of clarification of the agenda item or diversing into anything else?
Because the question was actually asked by some of the residents, actually, has the decision already been made? And my question is,
it has been made.
Well, I just want to.
It has been made by the Environment Court.
You are asking us to make a decision regarding 3-leg or 4-leg. You are asking us to make the decision. That is correct, isn't it?
Through the chair, I think the paper is quite clear on what the.
There's a yes. There's a yes.
I'm going by what's in the paper, which have been circulated to everybody.
Councillor Greenslade.
Thank you, Risha. Yes, Dave, I'd like to ask whether council will continue to maintain the road outside 1A Pukinamu Road if it stays there in place so that they can access their property. Is that going to be our responsibility?
Yes, we promised with Mr. Land that would remain as public roadway and would be council's maintenance within the corridor of council's roadway.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Shepherd?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I've read all of the community feedback, both for and against. I've met with residents. I feel I'm very abreast actually of what it is that they would like us to do. I've read the legal advice. I even sought independent legal advice of my own to try and find a legal mechanism to be able to amend this resource consent. And I was told very clearly that there isn't a legal avenue for us, that the Environment Court has made this decision and we are obligated to meet those obligations under the consent. So I find it really interesting that there are potentially contradicting resource consents, and there's been mention of, albeit very slight amendments to those obligations by moving from a T intersection to a roundabout. So on that basis alone, I'd really like to, I guess, offer my support to both Kevin Taylor and Devon Westerman, and I'd like to adjourn so that I can understand that a little better.
Councillor Lachlan.
Your Worship, I'm happy with that as well, but I'm just wondering, given that we've got some technical advisors available for us, I'm just wondering whether we should be trying to complete, for want of a better word, as much of this process as we can do today in terms of making sure there's any other unanswered questions. So putting aside, we're going to defer the portion that just relates to, is there some other conflicting resource consents? We're just thinking we should be trying to traverse any questions on the balance of what's in front of us. Does that make sense? Or
any questions regarding the technical report? Okay, does anyone?
I'm in the same place as Councillor Shepherd in terms of having read the legal advice and being quite clear about where, you know, the restrictions that are upon us. But I'm just thinking of, let's make sure that if there's any other questions that we get that done now while we've got advisors and stuff here. So when we come back, it'll just be that small point around the legal aspect. Kia ora.
Councillor Campbell and then Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, my unresolved questions about the traffic volumes, we were sent some information, but I mean, I'm not saying anyone's lying, but I would like to see a thorough breakdown of that count, that when it was done, hourly, daily, I would like to see that, just a confirmation. That you don't have to answer that now. That's one piece of information that's missing.
Available, is it? Yeah, no problems.
Second thing about the real life road renewal and maintenance costs. I think we're hearing something less than 10K a year. Yeah, that is a firm question. I was trying to get an answer to is the next 10 years, what's the expected road renewal and maintenance cost for the next 10 years? That's
been answered, Councillor. Councillor Williams.
Sorry, through the chair, I've got one more. Well, two bits actually. Yeah, my concern, the biggest concern here, residents were clearly asked whether they wanted a 3-leg or a 4-leg option. We got feedback about it. That's my understanding. They were asked for their preference. They were asked what they wanted. We have their feedback. It's been put to me by one of the residents, I don't think they're here, that if the 3-leg was never really an option, for what reasons or whatever, legal, then it should not have been presented. And although I've got to say this exercise seems to have brought the neighbourhood together, it seems to have created some division. So my concern is that. And lastly, we've got this legal opinion from James Winchester. But my concern is that it does not appear to be informed by the fact that litigation from...
Questions of clarification for staff.
Yep, just finish off quickly.
Yeah. It does not appear to be informed. James Winchester does not appear to be informed by the fact that litigation from Pukenama residents is a distinct possibility, and they, from my perspective, do appear to have some grounds to claim as people directly affected, they are not being listened to if we do the 4-leg option, which clearly 90% of them, whatever that percent, do not want. And that the chances of that, well, this is my estimation. Lastly, that the chances of that happening seem to be very large compared to the chances of litigation happening from some residents if we don't do that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I want to thank Roger, for a very well written report. Now, I'm actually disappointed, actually pretty disgusted at some of the attitudes, some of the respondents to the whole issue, suggesting that Roger Stokes and staff are following a due process, a historical process to where we are now, the environment report. So I find it very almost disingenuous, some people, to suggest that it's being led with the dogs, tails leading a dog type situation. I'll make that comment and make that public comment. But I also will suggest support Kevin, Rachel, and Rob. Perhaps we can table it. Having listened to, with respect to the presenters, table this for another month just to reflect on where we are going forward. But just want to comment on.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Thank you. Back to the Deputy Mayor. After the questions or queries, are you happy with your original suggestion?
If I am, just so long as we're really clear, I, like others, have read all of the submissions and have heard all of the submitters today, but the critical things here are around the resource consent. So let me spell it out in plain terms. If any developer or anybody applies for a resource consent, is granted that resource consent, and there are conditions attached to that, and further down the track, we choose, because of whatever set of circumstances, to ignore those conditions imposed, where does that leave us as a council? That's a difficult position to be in, and that's my question to those who want us to ignore the resource consent. I'm happy to hear arguments which support that position, but it would need to be compelling. And the legal opinion, which everybody has got, I'm happy to receive contrary opinions on that address the key issues that have been raised. Now, I appreciate this is a very emotive issue. I get it. But if I'm going to make a decision based on the facts, then give me the facts that address those facts we've got in front of us, the counter argument to that, and I'm happy to take that into account. In relation to the suggestion that the decision has already been made, I would like to think you've seen from what's happened here this afternoon that no such thing has occurred, or we wouldn't be wasting all of our time and your time going through this exercise. That's my point. If we're going to leave it on the table, I would need to have some more information addressing those critical points going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, I concur with that, but just to take that one step further, we need to understand also that this resource consent, it was a notified, publicly notified consent. It was appealed. It went all the way to the Environment Court for this decision to be made. So I'm clear that we have legal obligations. What I would really like to understand is how we can work those legal obligations to meet the needs of our ratepayers and not get sued. How can we do that? Is there a way? Can we legally look at a 3-leg roundabout or not? I'm just very conscious there is a court decision that we are obligated to.
Councillor Campbell.
Can I just suggest that I suggest that the reason this is an emotive issue is because this council is proposing to do something which 90% of the residents of the most affected street don't want to happen, and to very little benefit that I can tell.
Okay. All right. There seems to be a good appetite for to further the item for more information. Councillor Greenslade. More legal information.
Sort of directed to the Deputy Mayor. So what you're saying, Deputy, is that you will be looking for legal responses. This is not just what people think, what they would like. You actually want to get a legal response.
Not necessarily. We have some compelling information in front of us which sets out the resource consents which have been granted, which have been acted upon, which impose some obligations on council. We've given a legal opinion in relation to that. Clearly there is opposition to that. If there are some compelling reasons that can be presented in opposition to the information we've got, I'm happy to receive it. I'm happy for this to sit on the table in the meantime. That's where I'm going.
I suppose my concern would be that for every person that you employ yourself, you will get a report that will be sympathetic to the position that you're taking. And I listened to what my councillor Shepherd said on right through a very strong legal process, and we are sort of at the 11th hour. But I'm not against it. I'm just wanting to know what it is that actually would sway you.
Councillor Westerman and then Mr. Hale.
Yeah, and I get that, Councillor Greenslade, but I don't think we've got all the information yet. And as I say, I can't make a decision until I see those other lot of papers come through.
Mr. Hale.
Just through the chair, I'm just looking for direction from my team. I hear what's being said around the table. I acknowledge some suggestions around deferring this and for some work to take place. I'm just looking for direction for my team to follow.
Yeah, thank you, because that was perhaps where I was landing too, Tony. So we've been, I believe, if my reading of the meeting is, we've been through a process of asking questions of clarification from staff, and you're now in debate. So that's why, as staff, we're standing back. We've presented the best information that we have available. It would be useful from you to know exactly what you're seeking from us if you're going to hold this report over. We will be bringing this information back unless we hear otherwise.
Yeah. Cool. I'll leave it at the two critical things are we've had a submission which indicates that the resource consents have been varied at least a couple of times, albeit in a minor manner. I would like information on that. Secondly, that the original consent from Pukinamu was a T intersection. I'd like information on that. That would satisfy me.
Councillor Park.
Yeah, just through the chair, thank you to our Deputy Mayor for clarifying. That's exactly what I've got down here is about resource consent variations. I was quite intrigued by Mr. Landell's submission today, so and further information. So I just want to be crystal clear legally where we stand.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Any other commentary? Mr. Stokes.
Deputy Mayor has raised some questions about process with the resource consents, and I have tried to cover that in this report. I was a development engineer and boots deep in all of those resource consents, so I can provide some context, even though I might not answer your question. The context was it was NZTA in those days Lakeside Terraces was first cab off the rank, there was no auto at all. So the resource consent went through with NZTA being at the table, and they didn't want a new access at this point, as you worked out. So the consent, there was no proposal for a roundabout because there was no auto. So they proposed a T intersection there, and the funding was based on a T intersection. And there was a draft design done, and Mr. Dennis Lewis, who was a consultant at the time, actually did a valuation of the costs that would be required for that. Then next cab off the rank was the Naruto application across the road about 2 years later, at which point the Lakeside Terraces had procedural preference. They had their position already fixed of where their T was likely to be for their entrance, and of course it was still dealing with NZTA because this was 2006. So there was going to, so the position they were picked to match their access point at the same point as Pokinamu. Then because their subdivision was so large, a roundabout was identified as the correct. The traffic engineers identified as the correct process, and was going to connect into the Pokinamu one, and then council had a side agreement with the developer to say we will provide the funding that was provided when you connect Pokinamu onto the roundabout, and that's been inflation adjusted up to the current day. So that's where it sits. The Lakeside Terraces Naruto is already due to build their roundabout. They were given 6 months from the date of the 2000. They, by agreement with myself and exchange of letters, said, look, we'll hold it off till next year. They're okay with that. But that's the time frame we've got to work with. So that's the context. We took over the road in 2015. We had a resource consent with the developer, did it for free, provided the connection, met both resource consent conditions. Mr. Winchester has reviewed those and his findings and said that's an appropriate process for council to follow, and he's comfortable with it. So I just thought I'd throw that in there just to promote my.
Thank you for that. I think we will still consume that bit of information that you'll give us. So I'll still seek a deferral. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I thank Roger for that oral report, but having it as part of the minutes of the meeting is an enduring record of that information, I think would be more appropriate given the contention we have around this decision.
Okay, so yes, Councillor Truman.
Sorry, just a question. Who can apply for a variation of resource consent? So does it have to be the original applicants? It has to be the original applicants.
Thank you. All right, so I will seek to defer this item till November meeting.
Thanks.
20, what date is it? Yeah.
If I may, can we just perhaps detail the information that is requested just for clarification on this particular matter, given there's been quite a strong views around what we are doing. So if we can add those 2 items in, Karen, that would be great.
Yeah. Is there any other further information from the councillors required other than the 2 from the Deputy Mayor? Councillor Park.
Yeah, through the chair, I think it'd only be fair to those that have spent residents and ratepayers who have spent a lot of time and obviously shown a lot of keenness in this issue to understand the process from here going forward. We had a workshop which everyone was invited to. We've had speakers today. We are now seeking clarification to make a decision, but that is about council coming back. Like this is if residents and ratepayers want to discuss this with us further, they do so by reaching out to us. I just want to clarify, and there'd be no confusion for all these people giving up their time, whether they get to come back and present again or no. Next time we come back, it's with all the legal clarification we've been seeking, and a decision will be made, because there's a lot of people who have invested in this room, Your Worship, and I just don't want to set anyone up false hope, because I get the impression some have. There's been some different interpretations of opportunities.
Okay, so we're going away to seek clarification of what Mr. Stokes has just conversed to us at the request of the Deputy Mayor. If there's further dialogue or further conversations with councillors, I'm comfortable with that as well. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, just so we're clear, nor can any of us tell anybody in the back of the room what to do or what they must present to us.
Yeah.
But the door is open and the invitation is there to do so along the lines of what you all will have heard the conversation. Can't tell any of you to do anything. You are free to do whatever you choose in this respect. But if you are of a mind to present information along the lines of what's been requested, more than happy to receive it. Yep.
Very good. Okay, item is to.
Through the chair, just if we're talking about further information, I think we should probably add the detailed traffic count information. Throw that in there.
Consultant.
Yeah.
What's in the report?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My question,
Is that possible?
possible, I'm just unsure why.
Just confirmation of the detail. I think it's been, I'm not the only one asking for it. That's further information. I want
Is it available, Tony?
You've had a summary.
Through the chair, yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, the item is deferred until the November meeting.
Sorry,
Councillor Shepherd?
I really would like to understand what the process would be to get a variation if needed. That needs to be included as well, because we have a legal judgment we have to navigate.
Right, the support thing. Is that okay, Tony?
Through the chair, I'm reliant on the notes that have been taken. Obviously, I'm participating in meetings, so I'm very keen to ensure that we've got it all captured.
Yes. So the question is, Councillor Shepherd, there's been a environment court decision made.
Yeah,
You want to
under
know the
appeal.
consequences of not adhering to that.
I want to understand if there is, because the wording of it is what the legal judgment is based on, which specifically says that Lakeside will be connected to current Lake Terrace. If we're going to look to modify that in any way, I need to understand whether or not a variation to that consent is what's required in order for that to take effect without all the potential comebacks on council. That's what I'd like to understand.
Great, thank you.
Sorry,
Four.
could we just have retain change to obtain in number 2? Not retaining a resource consent, to obtain resource consent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, meeting deferred. I'll adjourn the meeting now for 5 minutes, just so during her brief. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We will keep talking and yes, to defer. You still need to move? Okay. Then
I'm happy to move what's on.
thank you, Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned for 5 minutes. And thank you, councillors.
So we're trying to find out.
I've got all the addresses, but I think number.
Okay, thank you very much, councillor. Just a couple of minutes and we'll get underway. Item 5.2.
Am I going to keep?
Can do. Never turn you down there. Okay, item, oh, just wait for the CEO. Getting my. Yeah. Just wait for the CEO. Thank you very much. Item 5.2 is a notice of motion, standing orders amendment. Call upon Mr. Councillor Danny Lachlan to speak to and move his motion, which has already been seconded by Councillor Park.
Yeah.
Councillor Lachlan.
You be for me here? Or?
Yes, here.
I did ask a question, sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to take this paper as read. It's pretty clear what it means. There's been a lot of noise on Facebook, as you can imagine, but you know, a notice of motion is just that. It's for the purposes of putting a motion to council, and it's not for any other reason that people might want to make up as being democracy or anything else. I'm clear about what democracy is. We have our councillors and they make decisions, and they're elected by the people of Taupō. I won't talk any more about Other things, so yeah, that's what's in front of us. And happy to obviously move my resolution, this Councillor Parker seconded. Happy to take any questions, clarification.
Ask the seconder if you want to say anything. Madam Secretary?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I believe that as a team, it is all up to us to foster a culture where all councillors are encouraged to support each other, even if we don't fully agree at times. And I think it's fair to say that that happens in quite a robust way, but we all get up from the table and move away in a congenial way. I also believe that seconding them can help shape a well-rounded debate and helps develop sort of people who are probably newer to the governance role than others, helps to foster relationships. Also, as we all know, governance is about strategic oversight, and I believe that if councillors are to have a discussion, not necessarily make a predetermined decision, but to have a discussion, you can then have a more strategic conversation about notices of motion being put forward, ensuring that any issues that may be brought forward sort of align with the governance vision and of the triennium, and that there's a reasonable chance of contributing positively to its objectives. I also believe that with the seconder, at least if a notice of motion comes to the table and the mover doesn't feel like they have the support, at least if they have a seconder, there is at least two people at the table that do see value, and it reflects that the proposal is just not one individual's idea or personal view, but it then does have initial support to allow a full and frank debate amongst the colleagues at the table. And that is why I find this a good practice in governance, and it doesn't preclude any discussions, it doesn't preclude any notices of motion, it just helps make notices of motion more succinct, more clear. And if you come in with some support around the table, at least you're going to get a lot better chance of getting your point across the line and perhaps even making some decision making that you're after. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Anyone else want to talk to the item? Councillor Campbell.
So, Worship, I do have quite a bit to say about this. I believe it's quite a significant element of our democracy. First, I want to applaud the author of this notice of motion being motivated enough to put up a notice of motion, and that it seems to be presented in such a way, for example, to give all practical options, which was actually the topic of one of my items last month, apparently deemed to be frivolous or vexatious. However, that is about as far as my praise will go, because as far as I can tell, this item is quite transparently targeted at myself or any other elected member who wants to table their own items to council agenda, instead of following the program set before us by our Mayor and CEO. If this notice of motion is passed, then I believe it will be nothing less than an appalling and shameful indictment of the way Taupō District Council treats its elected members in terms of their freedom of expression. Now, I mention myself because I am the only member to have submitted any items to any council agenda this term, apart from this one here, or the previous term to the best of my knowledge. But for the record, virtually all of my items I've submitted are on topics which I have previously been unable to have reasoned debate or discussion in chambers, because it gets shut down early on in an informal setting. That's my experience. Having done a handful of notice of motions, I can claim to have a deeper understanding of the potential ramifications of this item, which some of you might not realise. Giving as much benefit to the doubt of the author, I think that perhaps ignorance about the time and effort required to prepare a notice of motion may have something to do with it. So others, please take note. However, the author seems to have a little understanding of due process and why it exists, and seems to have a poor recollection of events as well. Danny.
Point of order, Your Worship. The member is criticising another councillor. He's not addressing the notice of motion. He's addressing the mover. and it's not appropriate. I'd ask him to review the relevance of his comments and stick to the point in which we have before us.
Through the chair, some claims were made to the paper about the way I moved some of my items.
Same thing, Your Worship, he is just simply carrying on.
Through the chair,
Remember, another couple of minutes and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Worship. It was said that I, as mover, this was said in your paper, proceeded to debate the issue without a seconder, even though a seconder was only asked at the end of discussion. And there's also inference I'm hearing that just because an item does not receive a seconder, then that means it could be either vexatious or frivolous, or somehow not meet the requirements of the Local Government Act. The format we currently have is for the mover to be given 5 minutes to introduce, immediately following which some questions may be asked before asking to be seconded. This makes logical sense to me because items need to be properly presented and debated before they are worthy to vote on. But requiring a seconder before each and every item is even accepted for an agenda, I believe places an unreasonable burden to somehow do all of this beforehand. Now my July item for a workshop to happen for the Northern Access Transport Study, which was passed by minority decision.
All right, I think we've got the point that a member is making. I'll cut it off at that. Thanks, Councillor. All asking here is for a seconder. You can keep bringing notice of motion if you got a seconder. Which is what we don't want to be time wasting. So I think we've got the message. Sorry, order, please, order. That'll be enough from the member. Thank you. Back to the mover. Is any other councillors got any questions? Councillor Williamson.
I haven't got any questions. I just want to thought about this, quite carefully, as we probably all have. Is it undemocratic for a notice of motion mover not to be able to present with a meeting without a seconder? And I've just my thoughts on this are that lately this, obviously without major abuse of the code of conduct, is flirting, the members flirting, and when it applied to anybody flirting that related to members, showing a pattern in my mind, and then unnecessary notice of motion that have been referred either discussed with committees or could be dealt through the chair or another forum. So I understand. I know that Local Government New Zealand standing template, the majority don't define needing a seconder, but I think Auckland might be one of the exceptions. So a little bit of homework on. But I don't think there's some commentary in the community, some abuse of due process. Well, that's I don't agree with that. So basically, I will support the notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Any Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, I'd also read the notice of motion, and I have to say, my initial reaction was somewhat reserved. However, notices of motion should be about the core business of council at hand, and not an opportunity for someone to simply have 5 minutes unfettered access to a microphone to say whatever they wish to say, whether or not it's got anything to do with council business. So having a seconder would actually require each of us to, heaven forbid, talk to our colleagues and get some agreement, because you're not going to get a motion or notice of motion across the line without agreement around the table. And the first step would be getting a seconder, which seems to me to be an eminently sensible way to do it. And as we've been reminded endlessly over the last 2 years about how things are done in Auckland, I'm surprised that the councillor sitting next to me doesn't want to do this, because that's how they do it in Auckland.
Councillor Shepherd.
It's not so much it's more I'd like to address Councillor Campbell, if that's okay. Councillor Campbell, you have approached me on occasion to second your notices of motion, and I have done that on occasion when I felt that there was some significant reason for open and transparent debate. I would be happy for you to continue to do that. The reason why I haven't been able to support your notices of motion lately is because of the way that they've been worded. And perhaps if you were to speak to some of us and get a seconder, that might just mitigate that, and that might give you a better chance of being able to speak to your topic.
Right. Just a quick reply, Councillor Campbell.
Your Worship, I see this as a very important element of our democratic process for having open and transparent conversations. I think I deserve a chance to give my full and proper response, which I have spent quite some time preparing this. I actually honestly do believe this is a very important thing, and I don't think it's frivolous or vexatious for me to ask for that chance.
Thank you. I think we got the point earlier.
No, I don't think you have got the point. Your Worship.
I'll rule to order here, please. I'll rule to order. The member will speak. Please. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. No more. Thank you. Back to the mover of the resolution. Councillor Lachlan, have you got any final comments? The original recommendation?
No, Your Worship, it all stands as it is.
Okay.
Movers and seconders and putting a motion is all part of democracy. Got it.
Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll put the motion.
So just
it up on the table.
Just for clarification, a change to standing orders requires a 75% majority.
75%
of those voting.
Okay, so 2, 4. Right, we'll do the numbers after we vote. Okay, the resolution. There it is. Recommendation. Yeah, that each notice of motion needs a seconder. Basically, Mr. McCaddy, that's correct up there. As per tabled by Councillor Lachlan and seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please raise your hands. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Well, shame on you.
Item 5.3, notice of motion. Mr. Campbell.
Okay. Let's go.
No, but because these notice of motions were submitted ahead of the meeting, we've deemed that they would be applied in terms of normal process, and this change would take effect for the next meeting.
Okay, now I've called on Councillor Campbell to speak to his motion. If we can keep to 5 minutes, we much appreciated, and on the subject.
Take the items read and say the intent of this item is not too dissimilar to my notice of motion last month regarding a rule I was attempting to introduce for audio visual recording. And this is something I also believe should be happening to improve transparency of this council. So let's see how this one goes. Indeed, this is something which I have raised before and recall some agreement being expressed at the time, but nothing has been actioned to make it happening. Hence, I now propose to introduce a rule whereby elected members are required to produce something in writing for the express purpose of more effectively disseminating knowledge or learnings to the rest of us and potentially the public as well. It can also be used to justify the expenditure involved of sending people all around the country. After all, these are events, conferences, these events, conferences, etc., which the ratepayer pay for us to attend. And I think both elected members and the ratepayer, who is our employer after all, deserve some visibility of the benefit of these expenses. One example I think of was 2 elected members paid trip to China last year, not all, but partly funded by the ratepayer, which hardly anyone knows about. And we at this council table only received a 5 or 10 minute verbal rundown. Now, I don't want to revisit what happened in the past, but moving forward, I believe that when we attend these events, there needs to be some sort of information dispersal. I don't think that, as per the note in motion, a 250 word minimum is too onerous a proposition for local politicians as us, whose key attributes are supposed to include communication skills. It can also serve as a comprehension exercise to demonstrate what the particular course or event was all about and its benefits, if there were any. and writing things down is an acknowledged way of affirming that knowledge. I do not believe that any of us are too busy to not be able to afford the time. Basically, if you can afford the time to attend these events, then we should be able to afford the time to do this. I just finishing, given the nature of this proposal, which at least some of you may have been reluctant to commit to, I am not sure it would have attracted a seconder, and hence I allude back to the previous item. But I'm certainly prepared to consider any rewording of the item if you think good things could be done differently. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Any points of clarification of Councillor Campbell? Yeah, Councillor Taylor and then Councillor Greenslade.
A couple of quick questions, Your Worship. You presented a notice of motion previously around a Court of Appeal decision dealing with Wellington City Council on decision making. Is that correct? Which alluded to Section 77 of the Local Government Act around how we should go about that.
There were practicable options.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
And advantages and disadvantages of saying, expecting us to make a decision. Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Why is it you're asking us to make a decision today when you have failed universally to comply with your own previous notice of motion? None of this addresses anything in the Local Government Act around decision making.
Well, that's an interesting question. I suppose the practicable option to do this is decide not to adopt this and carry on as now. I could have laid out all the disbenefits and benefits of that. I suppose I took it
through the chair.
But, I mean, if you want to vote against the notion, that's one thing. But yeah.
In the normal course of events, the member has gone to some extent to criticise us around decision making and transparency, and yet the very notice of motion he presents to us fails to meet his own standards and fails to meet the very simple requirements of the Local Government Act. I'm just curious as to why he's chosen not to abide by what the Local Government Act says and what his own submissions have previously have been.
Oh, I see. So your criticism is of the format of my notice of motion, not necessarily the substance. I wasn't. It's actually quite a simple item here. I didn't feel the need to a two-page report on pros and cons, to be honest, for this one.
Move on. Councillor Greenslade, any questions of clarification of Councillor Campbell?
Well, I was just going to ask Councillor Greenslade if Councillor Campbell, I'm confused now, if he read my Council Korero in the paper 2 weeks ago. So you saw it.
Sorry, what was the subject? I may have.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I can't remember. I think I may have, but I think I might have, but I. Oh no, it was something about summer and swimming. Oh, my comprehension skills, my memory. But yeah, well, what?
Shepherd.
In all honesty, Duncan, if you'd approached me with this prior, I probably would have helped you put some wording together that we could all live with. I would have been in a better position to second you. It's when they come to the council table in a format that I can't second. And if you haven't spoken to anybody about it, you're not going to have any consensus around the room. So I would just ask then, yeah, I guess that's my point, is that it's very hard to support some of your notices of motion because the wording isn't something I can support.
Well, could I just answer that? Surely I'm open to constructive changes to the. I mean, if you're just talking about the motion, are you suggesting something different?
Absolutely.
What's your suggestion?
It's too late. When it hasn't been seconded yet, so I'd like to hear from the others as well, and then it might be that together we come up with some alternative wording. I don't know.
Councillor Lachlan and then Councillor Williamson.
So Councillor Campbell raised an example, which isn't in the paper, but he raised an example of the trip to China, and we had a very good, full, thorough report back to us. I don't know if Councillor Campbell didn't attend that meeting, but we certainly did have a very well presented, full on step by step and coverage of that stuff. So I get a bit alarmed when, you're suggesting that that didn't happen, accuracy of reporting and everything else. And I think if you're going to use examples, then they should be part of your paper as well, if you want to back up what you're saying.
Well, perhaps I missed that somehow, but I could think of any other examples when any of us are attending conferences or events. I mean, I can't say I did it myself. I've been to one or two, but the last one I went to was about a year ago, and this has only just occurred to me as something really basic that I think we should be doing to it, at very least for information dissemination amongst each of our own elected members and the public as well. I mean, it's fairly straightforward as far as I'm concerned.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes, I'll just give my personal opinion. This is no criticism here, David. I mean, because you're a very inclusive mayor. I get that, you want to make everybody involved, but I'm surprised it's actually got to the table here. I mean, I go back to the just reinforce my point about a pattern of unnecessary emotions, those emotions. It's not a significant decision. We've discussed at our committee meetings, our workshops, and it's individual for you to enforce. It's not a directive.
Thank you. All right, there's a motion there from Councillor Campbell that we see there. So I'll call for a seconder of Councillor Campbell. Is there a seconder, please? No, the motion is lost. 5.4, another notice of motion from Councillor Campbell. Do you want to speak to that one, Councillor Campbell?
Once again, I'll take the item as read. This item is to request a staff review of the delegations to elected members, a topic which is possibly something not many of you have considered much before. As a person in the transport industry from another district where things are done quite differently, this has been on my radar for quite some time now, as some of you will be aware, and I hadn't been sure of how next to approach it. So I came up on this avenue, and I'll focus on the transport angle because it's one I'm most familiar. I recognise that a provincial town that we are, that transport is not nearly the same prominence in a place like Auckland, and that is a reason why, for example, this council doesn't employ a team of qualified traffic engineers, and why decisions like, say, putting in a new roundabout or traffic signals doesn't attract the same degree of public interest as in a city, usually. And to be sure, that is a valid point of view a lot of the time. And for example, the recent Wairaki roundabout, which elected members were never approached for a decision, apart from financial decision to approve it, took it off at the beginning of the year. I will agree is a reasonably sensible thing to do, given all the crashes at that place. And there was not really any members of the community I could tell who were unduly or adversely affected. However, the same cannot be said for the Pukenama roundabout, which we've just been hearing about, as I'm sure you will agree. And it should be pretty obvious that community views can be a very relevant element in the decision-making process. And that things aren't necessarily as simple as, say, an engineering decision to put in a 300mm stormwater pipe. Transport decisions in urban areas especially need to take into account community effects. And the solutions can often be subjective, with sometimes no absolute right or wrong answer. I say if Auckland had been left entirely in the hands of council and NZTA engineers, then from the 1980s onwards, we probably have only got more motorways with no cycleways or busways. Quoting section 78 of the Local Government Act, a local authority must, in the course of its decision-making process in relation to a matter, give consideration to the views and preferences of persons likely to be affected by or have an interest in the matter. Now, at the moment, I tried to ask this question in the first item. It is generally the council staff who are the ones taking on this role, and with elected members only getting to sign off transport items at the beginning of the financial year. This Pukenama one was quite exceptional, and it seems to be elevated to us. But the fact of the matter is that the delegated ones, the delegations lie with staff. And the Roading and Reserves Committee is where I believe some of these delegations should lie, but has no substantial influence that I can tell. And although we might get a workshop here and there, and this is my opinion, of course, I don't know, I realize maybe don't all agree, there's really only just for staff to receive input, which they can choose to regard or not. Again, it is actually about delegated authority in which staff do currently have in the realm of transport. Now, in my professional experience, that it should entirely be expected that elected members get more say on important transport decisions than we do here in Taupō, and that staff should be having to more properly justify their recommendations to us. If I were on staff here as a transport engineer, although quite liberating in some respects, I would be feeling some unease at the lack of justification required to account for the things I do. And for your information, the current settings in Auckland Council are that transport decisions are much more in the hands of staff at CCO Auckland Transport than ever was the case in the days before Super City. But Wayne Brown is trying to do something about this, and he is using some of the questionable decisions made by Auckland Transport as examples, e.g. $500,000 raised platforms. Now, this proposal is quite simple. It is for staff to present a paper with their recommendations for the appropriate delegations of elected members in order to, and I will directly quote the Local Government Act, better enable democratic local decision making and action by and on behalf of communities. Bearing in mind that we as elected members are the ones put in here by the voters with an expected role to exactly make that happen. So to finish off, so if staff think the current settings are totally fine, I want to hear them say it in their own words and why. I personally think the settings are out of sync with the transport aspect of council, but I am open to hearing their point of view. And there may be other aspects of council which are currently in the hands of staff, but which they feel is better to hand over to elected members for deciding. So this will be a good opportunity to bring that forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, yeah, any questions?
Councillor Campbell, any questions? Councillor Lachlan, and then Councillor Taylor.
Just clarification for Julie. So I might have read it wrong. So I thought we give you delegation, and then the delegations underneath that are done through you. And we quite regularly do your delegations. I'm pretty sure on more than one occasion we've reviewed those. So
in fact, if I can be clear, this morning you met as the Lake Taupō Trust, and you actually reviewed the delegations for that.
Yes, I'm very mindful of that, albeit that was for the trust, not for council, but I do recall us doing it more than one occasion, including when we started. So I'm quite clear that that is the proper process, and that's what we're following. That was just clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Quick questions. My same comments apply. You failed to meet the very simple standard of Section 77 of the Local Government Act in terms of decision making you're expecting us to make. But you also mentioned other matters. You would be aware at the beginning of the triennium, we all met as elected members and delegations were agreed to and distributed accordingly. There are 10 standing committees on council. There are 3 special committees and no fewer than 5 joint committees. Are you suggesting that all of these delegations need to be reviewed?
I'm suggesting a staff paper on their view of the delegations, and exactly in terms of Local Government Act, better enabling democratic local decision making and action by and on behalf of communities. Their view of where these delegations currently sit, are they appropriate, and should elected I want to hear staff view of where they think elected members fit in this equation, because I personally believe, at least in the area of transport, we are out of sync with being able to best make that happen.
Sorry, follow up.
Just so you are a member of the Roading Reserves Committee.
Yes.
So you would be aware that decisions down to the minutiae detail of where no parking lanes are painted and where stop signs and give way signs are put in, and where we have limits on parking from 30 to 60 minutes, that all comes to elected members delegated to us to make those decisions. Are you suggesting we shouldn't do that?
I'll respond to that, but and it took me a few times going to that committee to work out and understand these delegations and get the answer to that. But interestingly, I'll give you an example. If a traffic island goes in on a road, usually you need some yellow lines to go on there to so cars can get past or to enable visibility. It's up, the council staff decide traffic island goes in, and they don't have to justify it to us at all. The role of the traffic and roading committee is to, I say, tick box the yellow lines, because they're actually needed to make the island work safely. So it's sort of the cart before the horse. The important decision was to put the traffic island in, or something like a roundabout or traffic signals. They are actually important decisions. The frilly bits around the edges, like the no stopping signs and the P60, yes, that is the delegations of the traffic and roading committee, and the important decisions are not with them. So that answers your question.
Okay, all right, thank you. There's been a motion put. Oh, Councillor Shepherd, you got something?
Oh, I don't know. I can't support the notice of motion as it's been presented. I wonder if your issue is specifically with transport and the reserves and roading delegations. Perhaps your notice of motion might have been better to present there with some options rather than an open-ended, let's send people. I think there's a better way that this can be addressed. I'm also a little bit concerned that you don't offer input at workshops, because not only is that for us to gain information, it's also up for us, particularly because we do have areas that we work in, to offer some feedback, ask the right questions and give some feedback to the staff at that moment. I'm not sure why you think you don't get your say on this.
Oh no, we have workshops. That is true, and we sometimes have workshops. We didn't get a workshop on the Wairaki roundabout, for example. We don't get a workshop on everything. We do have some workshops, and we do have a chance to offer some input. And if you say direction.
Yes,
well,
I've given direction at workshops. Yes.
But the actual decision making, the responsibility at the moment with the delegations is not ours, as it would be in, say, some other councils that I've worked with. For example, putting in that new roundabout or putting in that true traffic island would have to come to this table here for approval for doing just that, not just attending a workshop and giving them their ideas or direction. It's the decision making, the authority of the decision making is in question.
So Lachlan?
My question for clarification is, so if someone does a notice of motion and it fails, do they get to do it again?
A year or something.
It's been debated.
In the future, they'll need a second. Okay, so notice of motion is there. Thank you. Yeah.
I just have one comment, obviously. Just to me, do you not understand the roles of governance and management, operational? I know you have expertise in traffic. You always focus on traffic, and that. And I find it actually quite insulting to suggest that there's no expertise within council staff and experience to do the job as capable as anybody else.
I didn't say there was not. There's expertise in this council appropriate to a provincial town.
We've tried that in the past.
All right, so there's a notice of motion on the table, been moved by Councillor Campbell. Thank you.
Through the chair,
we have I think we've had a good go at it.
I wish there was one offer, one amendment, if that makes people happier. If people want, if I believe that the issue I can identify as transport, but if you're happy excluding any other elements of council, then it could be reworded to council officers will review the current delegations.
You'll need a seconder for an amendment anyway.
With regard to transport issues, we can keep the transport issues if we like.
Okay, so do we have a seconder for Councillor Campbell's motion? All right, thank you, Councillor Campbell. Motion is lost. 5.3. Not 5.3, sorry, 5.5. 5.5, distribution and limits of community funding. Briar, are you there, Briar? Oh, thank you for waiting so long. Thank you, Briar.
Yeah, hear me?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time today. As you will have read from the paper in front of you, we're here today to seek your resolution on how we divide the budget for community funding across our different funds. The limits we will allocate to each applicant. So an applicant applies, what is the maximum amount that we can allocate to them under each fund, and the types of agreements that we are seeking under our strategic partnership fund. So this paper is a follow-on from the workshop that we had with you on the 5th of September, where we sought your direction on each of these topics. I will take the paper as read. I did just want to provide 2 points of note. The first one being, all going to plan today, we're expecting to open applications for our Accelerator Fund and our Strategic Partnership Fund on Monday until the 10th of December. There is also a slight amendment. We've provided you with a rough timeline of what the next year looks like for community funding. We had noted in there that the one-off funds, so the Mangakino-Pouakani, Taupō East Rural, and Turangi-Tongariro would open in September next year. That will be August instead, due to elections occurring in the decision-making timeframes. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see you. Councillor Park.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Just through the chair, given we always have there's a block of pre-election time when decisions can't be made, is August the right time? Should it not be brought back a bit? Because we actually, to give money out to community groups during a pre-election period can be seen as treating, I think the technical term is, and I'd hate us to get ourselves into trouble, or those freestanding anyway, to I just wonder, is August the right time? Because doesn't it start around then, when
3 months beforehand?
Yeah, so I just think we need to be careful that we're not seen to be distributing money to people in a pre-election period. That's all. Just to keep it
earlier,
potentially. Yeah, but, I mean, that's probably that's just a technical thing. But,
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Taylor.
Question comment around, particularly the strategic partnership fund. So we've got up to 300k, maximum of 5 agreements, and up to 60k per agreement. The implication there is, if we've got 300k, 6 5s are 30, or 5 times 60 is 300. So the implication from that is that we would, if we don't give 60k to each of the 5 applicants, my suggestion would be maximum number of agreements is 5, that we're not obliged to go to 5, but given it's strategic, that's the kind of work we want to partner with community groups to actually do. And I've raised this with one of the executive previously. I wonder whether we should be looking at raising the maximum amount from 60. Otherwise, it's just simple math. We divide 300 by 5, it equals, oh, there we go, 60. Raise it so there's not an expectation that if I apply and I'm successful, I'll get to 60. But if we're going to partner with people, we should look at potentially a higher sum. And I'm going to suggest either 80 or 100. Not that we have to give that, but it gives a degree of flexibility for those groups that we may wish to partner with. Just throw that on the table.
Councillor Leonard.
Can I make a comment rather than a question, please? Prior, I'd just like to say thank you. I've watched some community groups with this change of direction and the positive impact that has been created, in particular to the Wairakei community group that is establishing, also at Rangataiki and also at River Road. Some of those communities that sometimes struggle because of the other availability, but also the enabling factor rather than just giving money, but the in-kind impact. And I just wanted to say a big thanks to your team for the work that's gone into this, and the impacts are being felt greatly. And I know that we're on a direction of travel with this proposal here, but it's already creating amazing things for our community. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to you and your team.
Thank you, Kylie. Councillor Park.
Oh yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just concurred. Like, I think this is fantastic, bringing it into the 21st century, and it comes completely open to anybody, and to have independent community representatives sit with councillors to make the decision, to show that it will be a really transparent and robust process, and not just us deciding. I I just want to concur with the deputy mayor around strategic partnership. I know that in the past we've had some that are above that 60K already, and the economic benefit and the community groups around the prison workers and everything else that involves in the great things they do. It would be a pity to cut one's nose off. So perhaps if it could be that there's a maximum number of agreement, that the pot, whether it be less or more, just sit there, as opposed to having a limit of what they can seek up to. We don't want to qualm ambition.
Very good. Councillor Greenslade.
I'd just like to support what Councillor Park said about the timing of the community ones. Well, I know that I've been contacted by quite a few people, and I sort of feel if I'm going to go back to them and say August, September, I do wonder if we can just move it up a bit. It would be in the future March and September, would it?
Yes, that's what we had.
Possible to put it in March?
It's not. So we have budget for this next financial year where we're planning on having a funding round in March. That's for the 24-25 financial year. And then next year, from June, we will have a new budget for that community grant funding. So in the policy, you've agreed that we'll have those funding rounds twice per year in each of those locations. We haven't specified particular dates from what I can remember. So what we were looking at is if we could bring that forward to before elections for those community groups. And we can be flexible around what month that is. We will do some work.
Okay. Thank you, Brian, and thank you for your report. The recommendation is up there. You bang on. Councillor Williamson.
Suggestion about maximum amounts of that to resolve now, or is that just going to take on all amended? We'll do amended now.
I suspect they're just having a question of clarification moment.
Sorry, through the
question. Yeah.
So just Councillor Taylor's question. So sorry if we could just go back up, Karen. Just you're talking around the strategic partnership fund. So maintaining up to $300,000, a maximum of 5, but changing the maximum amount up to $100,000. Is that correct?
Well, it's an arbitrary figure. I'm just suggesting, based on the strategic nature of the groups we are seeking to partner with, let's not limit ourselves, whether it's 60, 70, 80. I think 60 is probably too small because that just reflects simple math going across the line there. I just wonder whether a higher figure reflects our intent to partner more strategically with whatever groups they might be. That's all.
So through the
I'm suggesting 80, it could be 100.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or you could just, as has been suggested, no figure at all and just leave it open.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the maximum amount to be distributed is the key. So up to 300 and up to 5. But what you do in terms of the scale of those agreements under that is entirely up to you.
Yeah, so through the chair, yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with the distribution budget, because if we were to change that, that's long-term plan stuff, which we've already discussed and said that it's how that's carved up and the appropriateness of that allocation is really what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Shepherd.
I was going to suggest that instead of having a figure there, that we have some wording to the effect that, yes, at the discretion of the yeah, at the discretion of the committee.
Right. Discretion. That the for that, Heather?
Yeah. Be at the discretion of council, because it's a council decision on the strategic partnerships.
National Council. Yeah. Very good. Okay, moving on. We have a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd, sent by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, team. Right, 5.6, approval of future development strategy for consultation. Tanya. Hillary. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. Good afternoon, councillors.
So we are seeking the adoption of the draft future development strategy for consultation. I'm going to take it as read. However, we did wish to amend the resolution slightly, seeking adoption with minor editorial changes, and we just had to make a couple of changes to the maps which were in the appendix. So I'll just quickly run you through those. So we just wanted to where the EUL is, that was cut off in the appendix, so just include that, and then we just needed to amend the mapping for this piece on at Falls Road. And we just needed to amend these future growth areas at Moray, just amend the boundaries for those ones. And then just tweak this map here relating to Mangakino. So happy to take any questions.
Yep, Councillor Greenslade. Thank you, sorry.
I read it. It's awkward. I have a few issues with your timelines. There was not European settlement in this area in 1840, especially not in my part of the world, or Councillor Fletcher's part of the world. That didn't happen until 1860. And one of the things that you did miss out in the timeline in our area was the kingitanga. It happened at Pukawa. So it just looked a little bit vanilla to me. And I felt it needed to be gone through a little bit more carefully with perhaps some of the more important things that happened in the districts and specifically in the Turangi region. So I hope you take that as constructive criticism.
Absolutely, happy to take that feedback, and we can make changes to that through the hearings process. So thank you for your feedback.
When did you write? 1870.
I didn't think it was 1940.
Cool. Good. Any other questions of Hillary and Tanya? No? Okay.
Thank you for doing this work, because this came up, as you know, during the district plan review. Particularly the 2050 plan, so it's good to see this being refreshed. Thank you.
Thank you. You happy to move that, Councillor Taylor?
I'm happy to move, yeah.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, ladies. Okay, 5.7. Final consideration of plan change 3B, Michaela. 38, sorry. Let's get later in the day. Copy, I think. Hi, Michaela, how are you?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. We are seeking the final consideration of Plan Change 38 for strategic directions. I'll take the paper as read, and our one singular appeal of the plan change by Federated Farmers has been withdrawn, so it is ready for final approval.
No questions of Michaela? All pretty straightforward. Good to see that appeal go away. Who did the charm there? You, Hillary.
Might have been me.
Cool. Okay, thank you, councillors, and thank you, Michaela and Hillary. Do I have a recommendation up there? Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Cool. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you very much, ladies. Right, 5.8, appointment of commissioner and delegation of decision making for proposed land use and subdivision consent. Heather, good afternoon, Heather. How are you? Thank you for waiting so long. Nice to have you.
Day. Okay, so we have a limited notified consent that needs to go to a hearing because we had 9 submissions, of which 8 were in opposition and 1 was in support. Now, in making a submission, submitters are able to, under a provision in the Act, request that no local authority members sit on the hearing, and we received a few of those. So what I'm recommending is that in this case, delegations go to a single qualified commissioner with a chairperson accreditation, being Mr. Bill Worsley, who's done a number of hearings for us, and that, yeah, he sit alone on this particular hearing.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so they don't want any councillors? Just, no, that's nice, isn't it? I thought we did a pretty good job, but no. Councillor, so Commissioner Bill's available, of course. He's finished his Tauranga gig. Yeah. Hey?
You might be needed.
Probably. Councillor Lachlan.
I think when we had one of these other discussions, we had a backup. I was wondering whether we should have a backup in the event that Mr. Wolseley is indisposed or.
You talked to him, have you ever?
He is, well, he emailed me, he should come back from overseas. Just checking, because we've already looked to set a hearing date. I have no problem approaching for a second available person. The issues we have is the very popular diaries of people with the qualifications of chairperson, and that's in particular where the scheduling becomes challenging, but happy to line someone a seconder in the meantime.
So if he can't do it for whatever reason, I'm not sure he's fine. But in the event we're able to pivot.
Yeah, the general practice would be if he was suddenly unavailable, we would look to reschedule a time when he might be. But if something happened where he wouldn't at all be able to do that, then we would be in a position of needing to seek a.
I'm not trying to be unhelpful.
No, it's a good backup.
You have to, in that case, we have to put a name to it, though.
So that would result in us coming back to council to appoint a further person.
Let's come back and just asking the questions and
yeah,
maybe for next.
I think if he says he's available, he's pretty good. Yeah, he used to work for us. Okay, so we take the point, Danny, but we'll move this recommendation as it is. Otherwise, drive. I just try and work out where that is.
Moody.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
A little corner of land that has been undeveloped, and it's been sold off by Mercury, and particular person wants to, or people want to add 4 sections to that corner. Growing.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Going down well with everyone, but we'll find out the hearing.
Over mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Thank you, Heather. 5.9, health and safety update. Tasha. Good afternoon, Tasha. And Louise. Nice to see you. Welcome. Thank you for waiting. The floor is yours.
I'm just here primarily to introduce our new health and safety manager for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to meet her. Tasha Lastinger joins us from DOC, where she's got a wealth of experience, and she's also done a bit of a stint at central government back in the day for the equivalent of what was WorkSafe. Tasha will talk to her own report here, and I'm here to support where needed.
Thanks, Louise. Hey, welcome, Tasha. Sorry, it's your first time here in front of us, ugly lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I take the report as read, right? Like the protocol thing going.
Yeah, that's the type we like.
Right, quick and to the point, bottom line. So just really quick to go through. Want to say I've been focused on the implementation of the health and safety and wellbeing strategy for the council. So that's something that has been there for over a year, and basically just continuing the work that Louise had been working on over the last several months, and just working on that myself. The second thing is focused on our critical risk program. So that's something that I'm bringing in and creating a critical risk standard. So that's basically ensuring that we're focused on the things most likely to harm our people. And so I'm working on streamlining what we call the controls across the council. Some of those critical risks are things like psychosocial, which are focused on mental health and physical well-being of staff, and also on driving and a few other critical risks. The other thing that I've been working on is improving the engagement. So the engagement being between top down and bottom up. So basically implementing a new health and safety representation system that creates a new governance level board for the exec team so that they can actually be apprised of the risks that currently are sitting there within health and safety, and they can make those decisions at a board level, but that it's unique in that it's just about health and safety, and that it allows our worker representatives to come up and actually have a place to be heard and to also to share what they think needs to occur in the workplace. So in particular, I focused the report mostly on our aggression incidents, and that is because what I've seen over the last several months, which since I've been here, is that we are seeing a steady increase of this occurring. And so that is something that is what I would consider a concern. We're seeing those in particular areas of the council, although I'm seeing it.
Just have a quick query, sorry.
Can I just query something, if you don't mind, as you go along? You're seeing an increase. Do you think that's actually an increase in incident, or actually people being aware that they should be reporting these incidents? You know, like sometimes there can be a culture of, oh, it was only minor, let it slide. Do you have any clarification over that, please?
Yeah, great question, Kylie. So basically, I would say it isn't so much about the awareness, because I don't think we've had enough of a campaign to actually make our staff aware of entering those things into the system. I would say it's actually they're happening and they're getting entered in the system because something significant has occurred. But I would see some further work occurring to encourage staff to enter it, and I think we'll see even more of a potential spike as staff begin to understand what is assault, what is aggression, and that it doesn't actually have to be physical to actually be defined as aggression. So I don't think we have enough of that knowledge throughout the council. Yeah, but great question. So in terms of our critical risk program, it does identify controls that we can streamline throughout the council, particularly around psychosocial or aggression incidents. And so what I'll be working on over the next several months is to actually see some of those controls, such as training for our staff, to be rolled out across the business. Yeah, and that's kind of me, guys.
Cool. Thanks, Tash. Councillor Park.
Yeah, I'm just through the chair, Tash. Nice to have, I've seen you around several times, so it's nice to actually have you in the health and safety space in the chamber. I just like to congratulate the work that the team has done on this. In parts and different councils, there have been the representation groups, but they seem to, since everybody's split, fallen away a bit. So it's really good to see that back. And I know I'm probably erring on the side of operational, but I just want to say thank you. I think it's great. Resilience is key for me. And one of the great ways to do that is that everyone feels safe to have a say and can lead from the bottom up and bottom down, like it's all collective. But thanks.
Any other questions, Tash? Right, cool. Hey, good to see you, Tash, and welcome aboard once again.
It's great to have you on.
Great,
Yep.
great to have.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Great. Cheers.
Thanks, Louise. Good to see you, Louise. Okay, moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. 5.10.
So, so just as we start 5.10, just in terms of introducing new staff, we also like to, Tony's going to take the opportunity to introduce Sarah.
Kia ora, Worship, Councillors, back again. And what I would like this opportunity before we move into the performance report, and Peniel is waiting in the wings, very keen to get here. I just wanted to introduce Sarah Leland. She is our new Three Waters manager. So this is our first opportunity in the chambers. Sarah started. Yeah, fully immersed already. So
Okay. Oh, welcome, Sarah. Where have you come from?
Waikato, I have come from Waikato Regional Council.
Sorry?
Waikato.
Okay, cool. Oh, nice to have you here, Sarah.
So I just got a message from her mentioning that she was, I think, presenting on climate change.
She was, yeah. Yeah. Oh, welcome aboard, Sarah. Nice, lovely to have you. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No problems. This guy next to you, he tells quite a few jokes. So if you've got any jokes next time around, let us know. We're quite happy to accept them. But you know, welcome to the team. It's like a family here, so be part of the same with you, Tash. You know, our doors are always open, so please make yourself, you know, for those possibilities. Good to see you. Bye bye. Right, Fennell.
Oh, just perhaps.
Sorry.
Apologies. While Pernell's coming up to the table, you're welcome to, and Jeanette, come up to the table. My intro, I just wanted to highlight one thing in terms of staff. Just recognise Liam Andrews, that was appointed this year as the Ranger of the Year. So it was identified in Warwick's update, but it's always nice to recognise staff in terms of their achievements.
Okay, right. Anything including your report there, Julie?
So as per normal, the front section of the report is me and the awesome exec team. If there's any questions or clarification on those matters, otherwise we have finance, which came out in a separate file. There's a link in the first page of the agenda, and then we'll move into the awesome PMO update.
Very good, Jeanette. Good afternoon. Are you happy with the netball?
Yes, very happy.
It's been a while since I've been like that against Australia.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jeanette. Good to have you here.
Apologies firstly for the lateness of the report. And this is, you'll notice that the format's changed slightly, but we're moving towards a slightly different looking report. So this is just the first step in that. So I will take the report as read. Probably the only comment I would make is that some of the numbers are a little bit away from budget because of the change, because of the late adoption of the LTP. I think some people have been quite conservative in their spending until that was adopted. And so we've got quite a few swings and roundabouts in some areas. So but I'm sure that will calm down by December.
Any questions on the financials? No? Good, Councillor Taylor.
Just a comment. Danny, thank you for that. I've mentioned to Sarah before, unlike Danny, I'm not an accountant. But this I've found very easy to follow, very intuitive. At a glance, I could see where we are, what's up. So thank you for that, and I commend the changes.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Okay, thank you, Jeanette. Stay with Fennell. Okay. Hi, Fennell. How are you?
Thank you very much for your time. I'm aware it's been a long day. Look, the significant projects report, one of the key changes is we've got the updated financials as a result of the LTP adoption. There's a couple of little anomalies in there, I will say. We're just actually preparing the new report as a direct feed from CI Anywhere. So we've got a couple of little percentages that are 1 or 2 out. So I'm just apologising for that. But the great news is that I'm quite optimistic about the capital spend myself. We're up 17.9 for 3 months. So that's going well over that interim period. I'll just discuss the key changes. I know everyone's keen to know what's happening out at the airport. We've signed we're in the process of signing the contract with Fulton Hogan for the airport apron. There's some unfavourable ground conditions out there where the aprons plan to be, but clean fill's been located and it should not impact the overall budget, which is great news. For anyone going to the event on Friday night up at OD Park, hopefully this is a spoiler alert,
I'll be there.
Okay, the lights will go live at, I don't know, 8 o'clock.
Bulb.
Hopefully it's going to be smooth sailing. So that's the lighting package. Now we're moving on to the next piece of.
Just what was the previous one there? Oh, that won't interfere with air traffic, okay? The apron upgrade? No.
No, it's all strategically down there. They've been measuring wingspans and everything very particular.
Yeah.
To whare fit out, as I'm sure you're aware, the build itself is ahead of schedule, which is great, but it is proving a couple of minor challenges in terms of our readiness with terms of walls and ceilings going in. Crown Road and EUL, we've got one time risk increase for the unison setup for Crown Road, and for EUL, the scope risk decreases now with the award of the civil works contract with Chemex. So that's good news. Peter Van Niekerk was going to be here today to talk about Southern Trunk Main, because that's obviously looming out there on Lake Terrace, and he just wanted to let you know that letter drops have been done through Tremaine. There's obviously been quite a lot of work going on down the main, especially over the long weekend, with a lot of additional traffic. And they've got 230 metres of pipe between Shepherd and Tremaine. The drill's currently being placed for the last drill shot from the Marae towards the Mobile through Napier intersection. And hopefully, if all goes well, the portion of the drilled pipe will be in by the end of next week. And obviously, the Southern Trunk team are working very closely with the events team on the cycle challenge, and then pushing to have it all the works off Lake Terrace before the Ironman 70.3 World Champs. And just finally, drinking water standards, all projects are in have a reduction in risk as a result of the LTP budget approval. So that's great, they're moving ahead. Questions?
Lovely, thanks, Pernell. Slightly different story from Tony on the Southern Trunk line. Did you get indigestion when you heard that thing? All the works are away in time. Was that correct, or so there'd be nothing, no visible signs of anything at Ironman?
Yeah, through the chair, we're working really closely with the Steve's team as well as Wayne's team.
Yeah.
Obviously the global team, they're pretty busy at the moment in Kona.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's all being coordinated.
Yeah, I think Lake Terrace will certainly be clear. There'll be a couple of side roads that maybe
Side roads are fine,
minor
yeah.
components, but they'll all be very passable, usable. The full reinstatement obviously won't occur until the end of the project.
Right, any questions of Pernell? No,
Yeah, I
Councillor
mentioned earlier
Williams.
to Tony this morning about the cycle challenge as well, so we've got a couple of
Yes. That's been one of the challenges of the drill moving locations. Is obviously we know we're knocking up against the end of the beginning of the events period. It's a good problem to have in a way.
Thanks, Pernell.
Thank you.
Right, back to you, Julie.
Yeah, so any further questions on that report? Otherwise, back to you.
Business as usual. They have a financials again. So.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Fletcher, seconded by Councillor Westman. That report is accepted. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Next up, we have. Oh, give me. Council engagements, November 2024. Karen, good afternoon, Karen.
Hello. So just to inform you that the Turangi Co-Governance Committee workshop is now going to start at 10 a.m. on Wednesday the 6th of November, so slightly later, and will just be half an hour. And that the Taupō Airport Authority Committee meeting, which was due to be held on the 25th of November, has been rescheduled to a week later. So it's now Tuesday the 2nd, Monday the 2nd at 1.
Lovely. Any other changes? Yeah, Councillor Greenside.
Is there any co-governance in December? When will the next co-governance meeting?
So next month I'll bring before you a schedule to approve for 2025, but at the moment it's proposed to be the first Wednesday in February.
Thank you.
Kirsty? Yeah. No, all good? Okay, can I have a mover, please?
So,
Ah,
so just, Aaron, appreciate your report and sorry to jump in there. And there's actually a second part to this report, which is around, the requests for training and, in attendance at events. Yes. Yeah, so just before you pass the resolution, just if you turn the following page, there's a number of requests.
Good, Chair.
oh, sorry, councillor Campbell?
Yeah, just regarding my application to go to the combined sector meeting on 21st November. Just the background, the reason for that meeting, it's all to do with infrastructure and rate, keeping a lid on infrastructure spending and keeping a lid on rate, which has been my pet topic for some time. But I'm prepared to, I didn't realise Kevin was applying to go as well. But so I'll withdraw my request to go to that sector, but I would ask if, well, would Councillor Taylor be prepared to give us, after he's been to that, and I'm not trying to be facetious, would you like to give us some sort of written summary after going to that thing? I would like to hear about it. I would like to hear your views.
So
Taylor?
a 250 word dissertation, but I will give you a full and detailed account of the agenda items and my take from that, and any presentations that are available as takeaways, I will bring those back as well.
Approval's fine.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Correct?
Withdrawn.
Been withdrawn. Okay, could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Seconded by Councillor Pitcher. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Right. Yeah, and okay, is that the resolution to go into confidence? Thank you, Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Let's give it a couple of minutes.